What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of the Ferda Pod. I'm Connor Farrell.
And I'm Billy Gerlot, where we talk about all sports with certainly no filter.
And certainly zero fluff.
You like that fluff, huh?
Yeah, I love the fluff,
I
kid.
love that fluff, kid. So we got a really exciting episode for you guys today. Obviously, we are not in our normal spot. We're kind of venturing out into different areas of Connecticut sports performance. So if you guys cannot tell where we are in the weight room here at CSP for our episode where we're going to talk about, strength training and kind of just all the ins and outs for not only just baseball players, but athletes in general, but baseball, specifically. One thing we do want to say is we were checking at our profile interactions, and since we started the Ferda podcast a month ago, we've had 20.2 thousand interactions on our profile. So thank you for that.
Not a bad job right there.
No, it's not bad at all, which is it's crazy. Connor texted me last night. Was like, yo, do you see how many interactions we have? And I'm like, yo, I wasn't expecting that. But obviously, thank you for that.
Check out our new cartoon characters.
Yeah. We updated our thumbnails and our cartoon characters.
Oh, it is. We need to follow just off of those.
Shout out to ChatGPT for doing that. I was arguing with ChatGPT via text message last night trying to make those, but we're just trying to make the podcast a little bit more visually appealing for you guys. Have some fun with it, so it's not just a plain black and white picture. Someone in our lives told us that the other day, and we did listen.
Weird how that finally comes full circle.
It does come full circle. So, we're not going to mention who said that, but it's worth it.
It's part of what we do here, and just being real with you guys, and kind of. But here we are.
How about it?
We're in a weight room where we do a lot of big things. We move a lot of weight. We get strong. We get powerful, and the vibes are crazy. So I think that would bring us up to our leadoff hitter here, and dude, it's one of those things you did at Penn State that absolutely just got you vibing in the weight room with the boys.
Dude, I tell you what, and it's actually kind of cool because both Penn State and Kent State, we had very similar atmospheres in the weight room. Usually, when you think about baseball, it's not kind of the highest sport on the totem pole at these colleges, so you get stuck with that 6 a.m., 7 a.m. workout slot.
So money's made as the
early mornings.
Yeah.
The early mornings. But I just think we did a lot of team competitions. Obviously, we focused on, our movements and, the specific strength training portion of it. But we would always finish, especially at Kent State, we would always finish each day with a competition. And it was always new guys filtering in and out. But no, I just think the competition atmosphere of just guys, wanting to get better, but also doing something that's not baseball, because most of your days is, centered around baseball. But the weight room is kind of where you can kind of just unleash your wild side, I guess.
Let it hang.
Kind of just get after it. And, I honestly, the weight room was one of my favorite places. It still is.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. You
get to vibe with the boys. You get to, me being a pitcher for, a transitioned into a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you get to get weird. You get to have some fun. You get to go crazy. Was the music on extremely loud?
Yeah.
I love it.
At Penn State, we were heavy rap guys, so we were listening to, the Futures, and Pop Smoke would play occasionally. That was me back in 2022. Yeah, R.I.P. And then at Kent, we were kind of just all over the place. Some days, depending on if it was just like a Saturday morning early mobility day, we had country on, and other days we were listening to heavy metal. It was kind of cool. And we also did a little bit of EDM. Shout out to our boy Jay Casey for doing that. He was the EDM guy. But no, the music was electric. How about you? I know it's been not to outdate you or anything, but
I gotta go back in the time machine. But
even now when you lift, even now,
you see, I came in here the other day. I was like, dude, I'm all for it. But I walked in the weight room the other day and I was like, Bill, we gotta change this up a little bit.
Yeah.
And for me, it was more about just straight bangers, straight heaters. Back 100 years ago in 2006 to we'll just stay there. It was more of like the Ozzy Osbourne. Obviously back then we had Shawty Low. I don't know if any of you who are going to watch this even know who Shawty Low is. But we always had like the Chameleonaires. Do you even know what Chameleon?
I do. All
right,
dirty,
so I'm
brother.
not
Riding dirty. Come on now.
Let's go. So that's kind of what we listened to, but we always vibed out, and it was always loud. But our coaches always were into like the Ozzy Osbourne, Stairway to Heaven, all that crazy stuff, which is nice. But you find a different vibe, you find a different beast inside of you, and just let it eat.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, at least growing up, at my gym back in Pennsylvania, Next Play Sports Performance, and we'll talk about Russ and all that. My trainer growing up later on in this episode, but we were like the Nickelbacks and the Metallicas
Some of those
and all
bangers,
those different screamos, and it's something that I can only personally listen to in the weight room. But there was nothing better than we had like this road pulling up, and the way that his setup was it was an old like factory building, and it had the big garage doors, and on the days after school where the garage doors would be pulled up and you would hear Nickelback blaring, and you're like, yo, I'm ready to run through a wall. So that was kind of the vibes that I had growing up. It's weird. It's just it's a different element.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have that element soon for you guys that don't know yet. That is something that we'll start to tease as we get closer to our grand opening, maybe. But I won't get too much into it. I mean, the vibes are gonna be high, but
vibes are gonna be high. Let's just say this room that we're in is gonna be no longer in a very short amount of time.
So. Yeah, I mean, I can almost count on one hand how soon.
Yeah, excited for that. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but from your personal opinion, what would you say? How would you say the weight room kind of exemplifies like creating and building a team culture and all that stuff?
I mean, it just allows like the grit to come hang out.
Yeah.
It's just being relentless. It's you're gonna have times where you can't put up certain weight, but you have your boys behind you. I mean, you see a lot of viral videos floating around right now where you have a guy throwing up a deadlift or a squat of a ton of weight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the whole team gets around you. The next thing you know, you just kind of like build into it. You have guys doing your little slaps on your back, just kind of
velo slaps.
Yeah, hell yeah, I know all of them. Those are fun. Especially I love giving them. So, it's one of those things where when you're in the weight room, you're even closer than where you were. On a ball field or wherever you're playing. But I think overall, like, I'm a big grit guy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of grit is built in the weight room because this place right here that we're sitting in is going to challenge you more than baseball will in terms of physical movements. And I think just obviously having your boys and your girls around you, fighting for you, fighting for the same cause, and
absolutely
saying, hey, this is where the road starts, and this is where the road is. The road to a championship begins right here. So if you can't necessarily get in the gym, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, at my junior college, he made it clear as day that if we didn't put up the, it's not even putting up the weight.
Yeah.
It was the level of accountability. It started from the 6 a.m. lifts on Fridays.
Yep.
Where it was down in West Virginia. It's like, I'm from Connecticut. If we missed 6 a.m. lift or we were there at 6:01, we were doing it again Saturday. So for me, that meant I wasn't going home.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I had to stay, not see my family. Now you start to see a level of accountability from guys that, might be a soft-spoken dudes that haven't seen their family in 6 months or whatever. That are like, hey, I want to go home and see my damn family. I want to get a little peace of mind. But it's also from the other standpoint, it's like I need to push myself to be a leader, whether it's on the field or off the field, and lead by example. So that's kind of what was always instilled in me. It's like, hey, yes, I want to go home, but also I want to go home with a championship. I want to go home with a national championship. And, I always talk about my junior college lives because, it's the level of that Coach Little, and shout out to Coach Little, that he, put on you.
Yeah.
It's like you're either here and it's a choice. It's either you do it or you don't. You know,
Yep.
there's no in between.
Yep.
You know, it's if you don't do it, then that's the choice that you make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you do it, your road to success is going to be way higher than it is if you don't do it.
For sure.
So
Yeah. No, I can't agree more. I think, you know, and I'll shout out my trainer growing up, Russ France at Next Play Sports Performance in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. You know, he was a big mentor for me, and it was nice because he wasn't a baseball mentor to me,
yeah,
you know, and it was kind of just like he taught me such crazy, like, valuable life lessons for when I got to college.
yeah,
I was already prepared. So, like, it was one of those things where it was like, hey, like, if you're not there 15 minutes early, you're late.
100%.
Or, you know, just like the little things like that. Or it's like, hey, you know, you only got 60% in the tank, high school schedules and stuff where you're there for 7-8 hours, you know, you failed a math exam, or, you know, you didn't get enough sleep last night, you know, and obviously that translates to college, but, you know, it's one of those like, hey, like, if you're going to skip reps or you're not going to give 100% of what you got, then, you know, it's not even worth showing up.
Yeah.
But no, I loved my trainer growing up. I still talk to him today. I model, you know, the lifts that we're going to talk about today a little bit, you know, off of, you know, his, I don't want to say algorithm, because, you know, there's a lot of other, you know, facilities and other strength coaches that do kind of the same thing, but, you know, mine's modeled off him because, you know, he shaped and formed my body to be a Division I athlete, you know, and I'm forever grateful for that. So kind of just, you know, leading into, you know, talking about the weight room, right? There's two different, I would say, seasons for the weight room. So you have your in-season lift, and you have your off-season lift. So kind of just talk about, you know, from a pitcher standpoint, and then I'll talk about, you know, from a hitter standpoint, like, what is the difference to you?
I mean, for me, you know, obviously the off season is to get as powerful as possible.
For sure.
You know, creating force, you know, input output on the mound, you know, in our daily office, is something that obviously helps with, you know, just simply just being effective in game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to be able to create. This is where your movements begin. Where it's if we're doing like a hip thruster, you know, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. That your hip thruster is something that's going to help you with your hip extension. So it's like if I'm lacking a certain movement on the mound, then that also, if I come in here and actually get after it, you know, it's like a lot of guys struggle to brace, you know, with the front leg and create, you know, force through the catcher. It's because we could simply be just not strong enough.
Yeah.
So this is where you kind of go into it, where, like I just said, a lot of the movements you do in here go onto the field.
Yeah.
So then when you go into the in-season stuff, now you're maintaining, you're keeping those movements, you're keeping those muscles wanting to eat for more, hungry for more, I should say. But also, it's a simulation of what you're doing on the field.
For sure.
But the in-season stuff is a good arm care, you know, just good overall, you know, recovery.
Yep.
So I tell all the pitchers at school, you know, I have been for the last, it's my 6th year coaching college baseball, and obviously go lift after you throw, you know, go get that total flush. You know, just have your body reset, but also your body's going to eat more after you throw. So I think it's kind of one of those things where you want to have that 12-month program. You know, you want to be able to, you know, perform, but also that helps with the mental side of things. You know, you can come in here, you know, in that like power phase per se, and let some of those demons out. You know, that's something that I kind of did as a player. Was I want to come in here and be the strongest guy, you know, physically and mentally. But it also the gym I saw, you know, when it was in those preseason lift phase, that I would be in here and get my mind right, but getting the body right. But it also trains your body from a different level. So when it comes time to go eat on the mound, there's no excuse for you not to do well. You know what I mean? So I think from a hitter standpoint, you know, I mean, you could touch on it, but there's a lot of things that go into it. And I think, you know, what phase we're going into now is just like one of those big building blocks for your future. So
no, I mean, I think obviously the pitcher's side of it is very, very, very important because, you have to take care of your arm. Like your arm is your moneymaker. So that's, very important. But, from a hitter's standpoint is what do I need to do in order to stay healthy, to play, obviously, college baseball, 55, 56 games plus a postseason.
It's a lot.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Or, if you get fortunate enough to play professional baseball, 162, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what do I got to do in order to stay healthy for that 162? So, obviously, that's very important. So, the training is very similar but very different. And, I've been very lucky enough to kind of dive in and, study it and kind of apply it. I'll be ISSA certified here in about 2-3 weeks. And, obviously my mentors of, Trey here at CSP, Russ back in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and kind of just, what I learned from my 5 years of college baseball. I had, not many people know this, I actually had 5 different strength coaches each year at both Penn State and Kent State, which is wild. So, I've seen a lot of different ways that, like workouts are, made and all that stuff. But kind of just for hitters, and we started applying this at Albertus this year, and this is, I don't want to say the right way or the wrong way to do it, but this is kind of just the format that my strength coach did at home. So what we do is, and he kind of talked about it, so ideally get yourself on a 12-week program, 4 weeks at a time. In my opinion, I feel like 4 weeks is optimal for, the phases. So 3 different phases at 4 weeks a pop. So the first phase would be a capacity phase, which is kind of, I don't want to say you're learning the movements, but you are doing the movements to where you're building a foundation. Right. And obviously this is the start of the off season. I didn't mean to, kind of just jump right into it. So ideally, beginning of the off season, you start a capacity phase for 4 weeks. You build a nice, strong foundation of, movements, getting your body right, all that fun stuff. Then after that 4 weeks, you move into a strength phase, which a lot of the movements are very similar, but now we start adding on weight. So we increase the volume. We lower down the sets. We add more recovery time in between, sets and all that stuff to get that optimal performance. Then after that 4 week period, so now you're 8 weeks in, you go into the final 4 weeks, and that's a power phase. So now you're kind of letting it eat a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you're benching the house, you're deadlifting the house, you're squatting the house, but obviously slow and controlled, but still moving the bar, fast and with intent. Because the way that, college baseball is moving is if we can move stuff fast and with intent, but still move it for weight, you're gonna be powerful on the field, which is gonna generate, max velocity off the mound or, hitting bombs on the field. But yeah, I mean, kind of just, and then that would go into your in season, which I was a big proponent. I lifted a lot. I mean, these programs are set up for, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, but I felt like I was doing something every day, just because I needed to keep my body, healthy, and functional. So, there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into the off-season program that, prepares you for that in-season, which, like you talked about, maintaining and all that fun stuff. So what I will do is I will show the capacity, the strength, the phase, or the power phase that we instilled at Albertus, which is the college that we coach at, and what we do here at Connecticut Sports Performance, just so you guys can see kind of what a rough estimate of what your program would look like if you do end up coming to train with myself or Coach Connor or Coach Trey at Connecticut Sports Performance. I think that kind of, leads into another teaser that we could potentially talk about. Do you want to chime on it?
Nah, dude, spill it.
All right. Yeah, no. So we're really excited about this. What we're doing is we're now offering online training, in-house training, and kind of like a hybrid. So you would do both. So what you would do is you would come in, and this is both for hitters and pitchers. We're still working on the logistics because, like you said, we have a grand opening of something that we will tease.
There's a lot of good moving pieces.
Yeah, a lot of good moving pieces, and we're working on, updating the website and all that stuff. So there's a lot going on. But we're super excited to, kind of introduce this new way of training where you would come into Connecticut Sports Performance, or you would send us videos of your swing or your pitching mechanics, and we would build a hitters or pitchers plan specified and specifically for you, which a lot of people, don't have the luxury of doing. And then we would take your hitting and your pitching, plans, and we would write you a strength and conditioning program too. So it's kind of just, you get the best of both worlds, all for it's specifically tailored for you. I think that's the most important part, because I feel a lot of people don't, kind of listen to their athletes in a way, and they kind of just say, hey, this is my way or the highway. But if you were to, come and, do this plan, it would be specified and, specifically tailored towards you.
Mm-hmm.
You would have access to both Connor and I weekly, or whether that's in-house or on the phone with a video call, or even just a simple phone call. And everything would be right there at your disposal. So we pretty much do everything for you, and it's up to you to, do what you got to do with it. Yeah, just do your part, and it's going to update, constantly. It's evolving, because I'm a big believer in not everybody moves the same, not everybody thinks the same, not everybody, everybody is unique in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to constantly keep updating, your plans.
Yeah.
So obviously that kind of got a little off topic of the weight room, but it really didn't, because it
all vibes together.
It all gels together, and this is the way of collegiate athletics. It's not just baseball; it's all sports. But the design is kind of based off of a drive line or a tread, or stuff like that. But you would get it with Coach Connor and I.
Yeah, and this also helps play into episode 6 of our I would say, more the recruiting side. With college coaches, I mean, obviously us being college coaches, and having many connections across the country when it comes to the college recruiting world, we'll be able to kind of give you the insight of like what we look for. But it's also simply the room that we're sitting in is where it should begin.
Starts. Yep.
It's like when you want to get down to Golden Brick Road, the start of that road is here.
For sure.
And I think when you have, when you're trying to go to the schools that you want, not only is obviously the weight room important, but also your GPA. But we'll get into that.
For sure.
But I think we're going to give you guys a full scale membership in a way that, like Bill said, is customized to every nook and cranny of your system and your body and how you move, and whether you're a pitcher, you're a hitter, we're here for it. But I mean, I think, like what are we'll give you guys a little tidbit. What are like a couple lifts that for the guys at home, if you want to be a collegiate hitter, or even an outstanding high school hitter.
Yeah.
For some of the younger guys out there that aren't able to be recruited yet. What's 3 things that they could do?
Yeah, so stronger? I think obviously there's a bunch. There's a bunch, but I'll give you my top 3. So I think squats is massive, because all of the power is, in your lower half. That could be front squat, back squat, safety bar squat, whatever you got. I think being explosive with a squat is super important, and it also helps with your ground force.
Mm-hmm.
One exercise that I did with my trainer growing up, and some of my athletes are doing here now, is a trap bar deadlift,
Mm-hmm.
but it's with a hinge. We talk about on the baseball side of things, really getting into that coil of our back hip, and kind of sitting in it. So the trap bar hinge kind of allows you to get into that position and really feel it out, but while also being explosive with movements, weight, all that fun stuff. So I'm a really, really, really big fan of that one, and we've also gotten super, super good feedback on that lift. And my third one, and this kind of ties into pitching, is med ball rotational throws.
Always need those.
It's such a easy way to kind of replicate your swing in a way.
Correct.
Because you can literally, you just need a wall. You need a med ball and a wall, and you can just let it eat into this wall. And there's different, variations of, what you can do with that. But I think any type of med ball, rotational throws, slams, all that fun stuff is, super, super important.
I agree.
For, a really good, successful hitter. What do you got on the pitching side?
So, I mean, on top of your med balls and your squats, I think obviously your squats is what you're trying to do. You're trying to replicate, like I said in our tips and tricks video, going back, tips and tricks video of pitching, how you toe the rubber starts from your squat.
Yep.
But how you also gain, your lower half mechanics is from, I would say, a split squat. Bulgarian split squat is, you're replicating what you do on the mound.
Yeah, for sure.
But also, like I said a minute ago, was the hip thrusters. I mean, that's kind of something that, those three things right there help build an efficient lower half, but also create some velocity while taking away some strain from your arm. So I think all three of those things, if you're able to get those to, a high level, you're going to be a high-level thrower. And not, obviously that's not the secret to throwing hard or getting to the bigs or whatever. But those are three things that will help you get to the next level and also create a better foundation for your lower half to create, the movements that you need to be able to throw a baseball at a high rate of speed, especially with the amount of forces that go through the arm, during a 7 or 9 inning game. I just think, what we do when it comes to the weight room mirrors so much of gameplay. And Billy just touched on it. It's like, if you're not in the weight room, it's going to be a struggle for you to get through a 9 inning game or, a high school game with 7 innings or even, that extra inning game. It's like, all right, well, we're the workhorses. I'll repeat it again. It's like your workhorses are here. Yeah. And I think that's one of those things where you do it, you're going to see success. If you don't, you're not going to see much success. Yeah. But obviously there's guys out there, I think, that have God-given talent.
Sure.
But even those guys will
it
even
preach. It catches up to them.
There's going to be guys that start here. Little League, you're here. And then next, little Jimmy over here, works his tail off, and now they're even.
Yep.
So who's going to win when you get to, the collegiate side? And you're like, all right, well, who's going to work their ass off?
Yep,
it's
sure.
The guys who get gritty, work their tail off, are able to be, just straight out dogs and just being relentless, and refusing to fail, But to give in, I should say, failures, in baseball is part of it. So you have to be able to fail and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think a good example of this, and obviously I'm a big proponent, and I know you are too, of a very select few amount of people go on to play collegiate sports, right? So that's Division I baseball, Division II baseball, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, all the above, right? But you can tell the difference of an SEC guy and
1,000%,
like a mid-major guy. And I'm not saying that there's not mid-major guys that look like those SEC guys, but when you have a team of 40 guys or whatever the hell it is now, teams carry 55 guys on their fall 50, roster, 70, it is. But when you have guys that just look the part and have that physicality part of it, it translates. As much 100%. As you don't want it to translate, it translates. Yeah. If there's a guy that is 6'2", 240, and a guy that's 6'2", 185,
you're gonna you're gonna see the clear difference.
And a lot of it too is, and you might not think it translates, but it does. The amount of work that you put in here keeps you healthy out on the field, and I think that is one of the biggest one of the components of it is. Now, obviously, that you talk about the the injuries that you don't want to talk about. You talk about the non-contacts, or you talk about the UCLs or the ACLs 100%. Or anything like those are stuff that you can't control.
Yeah, you're an overhead thrower.
But yeah, when you think of like your common like hamstring injury or your common quad strain or just muscle tightness in general, right? It's it's because you're doing movements that your body is not supposed to be doing, especially as like you just said, overhand throwers. That's not a normal human movement, and I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
So just getting after it in here is at the end of the day, it's going to keep you healthy out there, and don't rat on us if you get hurt, because a lot of grinders in the weight room, do get hurt. But 9 times out of 10, the weight room is going to keep you healthy.
Well, 1,000%. And I think, when you look at, I think we're fortunate enough to obviously coach, over the summer and see. We had a handful of guys that you could see the difference in what their bodies are compared to the next guy.
Yeah, we had guys too. I mean, we had guys too that absolutely got after it, and you could just tell.
Yeah.
You could just tell that you're like, yo, you are physically gifted, or you are an absolute
100%.
Absolute grinder.
I mean, I get asked the question a lot, what's the difference between a D1 guy and a D3 guy or a D2 guy? Obviously there's a lot of variables that play into it, but the easiest answer that you could probably give somebody without, giving them a long essay, is the weight room. I think, when I was at my junior college and I'm looking at guys that ended up going to Division I schools or Division III schools or 2 schools. There's nothing about the division. Right now, I think the whole landscape is pretty much, as close as it's ever been.
Yeah, it is.
But you're gonna want to separate yourself by being in here. So one of the things that we preach at Albertus is get in the weight room, get after it. They're in there, pretty much every day it seems, which is nice.
Yeah, quick story for you. We covered lift on Tuesday, and we showed up. We have lift from 7 to 8. That's our time slot at Albertus, and we showed up at 6:45, and we're like, yo, the music was already blaring. The guys were getting after it. We're like, 100%. Yo, like, where did this vibe come from? But our guys are super good with it, and like I said, I'm not saying this because I wrote their program or anything like that, but I think now that that these guys have a very specific weight training routine and regiment and stuff, I think they're really buying into it, and I think they're starting to see the results out on the field, because it's translating with our inner squads and just all that stuff, and I think the guys are really buying into that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think overall, just going back to the very beginning, it's just the team culture that's created in a weight room is very, very important, but also you see it quicker than anything else. You have guys from all over the country that come and play, and how do they meet each other? I remember the first time on my freshman year, first day, I got there a week and a half early, and I already had guys that were other baseball players, other freshmen, and at the time Potomac State was coming off a Junior College World Series. There were guys that are in the weight room, there were guys at the field, there were guys doing everything, and that's something that you see and you're like, oh, this is exactly where I want to be. This is home.
It's contagious.
It is. It's contagious in the weight room. Once you kind of get that flow, you love it. You find it almost like an addiction, almost.
Yeah.
A good addiction, obviously.
Yes.
I need to clarify that.
Yes, I have to clarify that. Don't cancel us, please. It's only episode 5.
Yeah. No, but you just love it. You fall in love with it. You fall in love with the process. And that's something that I think is great for everyone at home to see, whether it's adults, kids, young adults, men, women. It doesn't matter. I think the weight room is where you can come and use this as like your therapy in a way. You know what I mean?
For sure. And we got a couple more things for you, but kind of just. How would you say, and you actually just kind of touched on it, that's why I wanted to kind of leeway into this.
Yeah, man.
So how do you, just like the mindset and the grit and just the mentality, like what do you feel the weight room, helps create that, like we use it a lot, but like that dog mentality.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's more of like along the lines of that choice. I mean, you look at what a dog ultimately means. I mean, I think a dog, comes down to like who's gonna refuse to give in. Who's gonna sit there and be like, all right, my body is battle tested, and I say that with very, I don't want to like light, because there are people out there like the military that are doing what I just said.
We both come from military families, so we
So it's like my brother was a Marine. It's kind of, you look at it, it's like, what ultimately is a dog? It's like, how do you create and that's one thing that I had the pitching staff do. The first meeting was we went over what the pitching plan was, how we're going to run this staff. But the last thing was, I want you to tell me what your definition of a dog is.
Mm-hmm.
So going into it, I haven't even told them yet, but you got to earn it. You know what I mean? Like, you earn it by being on time, which is early. Doing the weight room, not even doing the weight room, being in the weight room at a high level.
Yeah.
When things of a collegiate athlete, you have school, you have your own personal life, you're away from home. There's a lot of variables, like I said a minute ago, that go into it. Now, how do I harness all that to be able to go into the weight room and really get after it?
For sure.
Then you have, the struggles of your at-bats, or how you did an inter squad, or, A to Z type stuff that play in, where you need to be like, all right, well, how do I control this, and how do I get better, and how do I get after it? So when it comes down to the team culture, now you're taking that same mindset, but now you're teaming it up with 35, 40 other dudes that are in the same boat as you, but also want to get after it with the same goal. So I think when it came to the team culture, it's like me being a part of something that had a phenomenal team culture. It was like I said a second ago, we got after it the second. That's how we met each other.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Connor. I'm like, all right, man. I'm so-and-so. Like, let's go eat.
Let's get after it.
Yeah. And it's like you have the music that vibe with you. You have, your headbangers, and you're sitting there being jackasses with each other. But
for sure,
at the end of the day, that we are quote unquote going to war with your guys to win, and you're going to face the hardest battles in your baseball career.
Yep.
As a collegiate athlete.
For sure.
Where you need to sit there and be like, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. This is our number one goal, and I love that your former teammate, Jay Casey, kind of touched into it. It's like, how can I stack my days? Mm-hmm. And I think I love that, because shout out Jay, because that's phenomenal.
If you haven't watched that episode, please go back and watch that. I mean, that's just unbelievable content. It's unbelievable content. We're not even going to talk about it, because you just need to watch that video.
Yeah, because I think like how you go and stack your days is how you build that mindset to create ultimate success.
Yes,
and
that's in anything you do.
Yeah.
That's in anything.
And it's like Jake said in that same video, it's what could I do if I'm at 20%? You said at practice yesterday, channeling that whole video. How could I, at 20%, help my team win? Like, when I feel like crap, what could I do to will my way? Will the rest of the team to get them to win? And I think it still starts here. You know what I mean? It starts in the weight room.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. I think the weight room helps you. It's kind of like its own little dungeon of how can I push myself to the max?
Yeah.
And I credit a lot of guys like at both Penn State and Kent State, and I know a lot of other programs do this across the country. Is like when you have max days, like I have a crazy amount of respect for the guys that push themselves to the limits to where they fail.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like if you have a guy that, like how we were at Kent, and I mean, I just think we had some of the grittiest dudes. Like if we were maxing that day, a lot of our guys would go till failure.
Oh,
and they would get absolutely bodied. I got bodied by weight.
Yeah.
I got bodied by weight. And there was just something about when your boy got bodied by the weight, you were like, yo, you may have failed there, but that was, and I'm going to say it, that was fucking awesome. Because you're like, yo, that guy is going to his absolute max for the betterment of the team.
And next time up, he's going to kick the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where it's like just the vibe and the culture that the weight room has, where you can push yourself to the limit and you can build a foundation, and then to finally watch it translate out onto the field. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. And I'll tell a story, and a lot of guys go through this as the Omaha week. I think that's an unbelievable example of it. And if you guys don't know what an Omaha week is, you split up the team into different teams, and you have point categories, and it's all week. It's all week long, and you got different challenges. And like, for example, the ones at Kent State, we had different obstacle courses. We had a campus run. We did the Murph, and let me tell you, this was probably the worst week in Kent weather-wise, because we were doing the Murph, and it was pouring down rain, borderline sleeting, and just like the smiles and the laughs, and the boys just getting after it. Like even Coach Duncan's out there in the pouring down rain, and he's like, "Yo, this is awesome!" And it's just a different atmosphere that you really can't describe, because it's totally different than what you go through in your daily business, whether it's class or baseball practice in general. It's just it's a place where you can kind of just unleash a side that not many people get to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great part of being a collegiate athlete, and being able to, even a high school athlete, it's a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
So when it comes down to it, you want to make sure that what you're doing is for the betterment of yourself, but also for your ultimate goals. And I think going into like I would say the ending. What was it like for you at Penn State and Kent State? Like your what should I say? Like, you're obviously you had your Omaha challenge, but then how did you guys end? Like, what was your? I shouldn't even say end. Like, what was your final obstacle that really pushed you over the edge?
That's a good question, because I felt like the Omaha challenge was kind of like your send off of the fall, right? Into where you were done practice, you were kind of doing individuals, you were on your own little schedules. So the Omaha week was kind of like that last week that you had as a team. And I think it was, and I'll talk about the one at Kent. It was the Friday. We just got done the campus run, and we were finishing at Schoonover Stadium, and as a team you had to cross home plate. And I think there was something about it just being so rewarding. And it was like, yo, we did that. You know what I mean? Because you had the team that won, and then they were waiting there for their boys. Like, they weren't celebrating because they won the campus run. They were celebrating like, yo, we just went through Hell Week together. And then they were there for the next team. Mm-hmm. And then those two teams were there for the next team. And then that team was there for the final team. And even that final team, you had guys carrying guys across the finish line.
Yeah.
And it's not just because they were out of shape or anything like that. Like I said, it was pouring down rain. So you didn't know if they fell. You didn't know if anything, but it was kind of just like not leaving that guy behind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just, like I said, it was pouring down rain. We're out there dabbing each other up. Like, we're taking pictures together. And it was like, nobody cared who won. It was like, yo, like we did this together. Like, and I'm gonna combine, our two slogans. It was like, we are Kent State. You know what I mean? See what I did there? That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, I wonder how James Franklin thinks of
that. but no, like, it was just it was like, yo, like, we did that together. And it was awesome. And it was like, now what do we have to do as individuals, to get to that championship?
Yep.
And I'll never forget that, because that year we won a championship.
Hell yeah.
And it was like, that was kind of just, that was kind of my send off, for, at least my baseball career, because Kent State was my last destination. And I mean, obviously Penn State was the same way, where it was like, you had Coach Gambino, Coach Lawasu, and all that, and our strength coach, Sanders, and all that. Like when we finished, our obstacle courses and all that stuff, and we got sent off, like it was like, hey, like, you guys did that. You guys did that. It wasn't separated. It was like you guys did that as a team, and you bodied it.
It's nice to have.
It kind of. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's weird, but it gives me chills. Like just thinking about it.
Because I remember, didn't even have that in my day, bro.
Yeah, no, and I remember being a part of it. That's something.
We ran mountains.
For my Alberta's Fearless Falcons watching this video.
Get ready, kids.
We're working something up. We're working.
Get ready.
Up, so get ready for that. But to kind of, obviously that was pretty good to end the video. But we got one more thing for you. Kind of just talk about your favorite recovery tools and some of the supplements that you feel, the guys, we're really slowing it down there. We really built that up to slow it down just to bring it back to recovery, because at the end of the day, when you do these Omaha challenges, your body feels like shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to talk about it. You have to talk about it.
Well, for us, it was, I got to learn what the lovely state of West Virginia looked like. It was running. We did a ton of sprints.
Talk about that hill. Talk about that hill.
So we had a hill. So at West Virginia, there was a Law School Hill. At Potomac State, there was 81501, which was the Grand Junction zip code, to where the Junior College World Series is. But let me tell you, like, they're like this. They're straight up and down. They're easily 150, 20 yards long. I'll never forget, we were, I guess this was like my own Omaha challenge, back before it existed, where we would have to run a mountain and push our coach's car. So, obviously you being from down that way, we would have to sit there. And this kind of leads into, what my question was to you, was like, what's our funniest, what's like our funniest thing that ever happened during our lift? And it was, we were We were pushing this car, which is, hopefully Coach Little. I apologize. It was raining, which kind of goes into your story. It was raining. We're pushing this car, and the guy next to me slipped.
No.
So where do you think his shoulder went?
No.
Right into the back door, with the trunk door of his Ford, whatever it's called, Explorer, and it left a dent. So imagine you're pushing your head coach's car up this steep mountain, and it left a dent. Hey, coach, man, like, because he would sit there and not only just let us push it, he would ride the brake. So once you saw those nice little taillights turn on red, you're like, oh shit,
here we go. Yeah, here you go.
This is it. But it was one of those things, like, when you got to the mountaintop, it was relieving. But then that quick little hit of, hey, you got another one coming. It's all right, boys. You're going to walk down this mountain backwards. So now the quads are firing, and you're about cooked.
Yeah.
And that comes down to, like, all right, as soon as you get down to the bottom, you're going straight back up. So the whole town of Kaiser, West Virginia, would be sitting there watching us run around campus, and they knew, like, obviously baseball players, it was kind of like Friday Night Lights, where you knew the Potomac State baseball team was out there running. You knew it was time. And you saw us running the mountains. You had to run a sub 7-minute mile just to be on a team. So it was like, obviously back then.
And you make our guys do that too.
Yeah.
So it's universal.
And I personally think that the Falcons have a little bit easier. They don't have to run through mountains.
Yeah.
I did that. We had to do that all through, the ups and downs of the terrain of West Virginia, which is beautiful. So I wasn't complaining about that.
Yeah, right.
But my legs were.
Yeah, right.
But I think, it was one of those things where, we go from our lift or our bullpens and whatnot, and we do our sprints. We do our tire flips. We do whatever it had to do to help us. It was a mental and physical toll on our bodies, but it was so rewarding at the end.
Yep.
When you're holding that championship, banner or whatever it is, the trophy, the plaque, it was rewarding because you knew that all that nonsense and all the going home sore, going home tired. So there were times that I would go hit the shower and I'm like, dude, I'm going to yak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How the hell did this happen? And I'm like, I swore that I drank enough water. I did what I need to do. But
Yeah.
When you think you did that, it's like, nah, Coach Little, I'm gonna push you a little bit further. So it was one of those things where it's, we had fun, but also you're doing with your boys, doing with your family. I mean, I still talk to all those dudes. I think those are my closest friends. We have a group chat.
Yeah.
I missed alumni weekend last weekend, so maybe the freshmen now actually they have beards now, which is crazy because back then when I was playing there, we weren't allowed to have any beards or hair that touched the neckline, and now they have beards. And last time I was down there, I asked Coach, I was like, "Hey, listen, like, what's up with these dudes going play, wearing having beards now?" He goes, "Oh, we have better players now, but we were there. We won a region and a East or not East District, but the district or what they call in Judico World, like the Super Regional.
Yep.
Both years I was there. So I'm like, all right, man.
Yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, whatever you say. Whatever you say, it's fine. If they want to wear
But
a
hey,
beard, they want to wear a beard.
I mean, the Yankees did it, so I guess.
Potomac State can do it.
Well, like, what was one of your things? Like, what was one of your fun moments, or a funny moment, or something you want to share with the viewers of the Ferda Pod?
I'm trying to think because there's nothing funnier than you or watching your boys just vomit.
Right.
Because of what you're doing. So, I mean, it kind of released. Look at
that guy.
You're like, yo, like you're pissed off because you're like, yo, I don't want to be doing this right now, like in the moment. But then you see like your boy just vomiting over there. You're like, yeah, all right, that's kind of funny. Like that couldn't be me, but then you do it. So, I mean, that's kind of funny. I'm trying to think of like stories of just stuff like that. I mean, I don't really know.
My highlight's probably that Westy first at bat when you weren't even supposed to play, and I was like, "Hey, Billy, you're gonna play. You're gonna play today."
Yo.
The first at bat, he gets pegged right in the
hip. Yeah. So I could share
that's the Westy one.
I could share that story. So I mean, this is not even remotely close to weight training or anything like that. So we're kind of getting off the beaten path here, but it's a good story. So it's 2023. I was playing for Coach Connor in Danbury, and he's like, "Hey, it's your off day." I'm like, "Bet." We're driving up to Keene, New Hampshire. And I'm like, bet, like, this is good. I'm just going to relax.
Change of plans by Coach Connor. Chill.
So we get there, and he's like, hey, like, you got to play. I'm like, all right, whatever. He's like, yeah, and you're also going to hit leadoff. I'm like, oh, cool. So now, all of a sudden, I blink. It's one of the first ESPN games of the NACDL. So it's on TV. I'm hitting leadoff. And for anybody that has played in Keene or played for Keene, like, when the sun starts setting down on those bushes for the batter's eye, it gets, it's really hard to see. And we're facing a kid that actually ended up getting drafted. I don't remember where he was, but I remember he did end up getting drafted. And he smoked me right in like my hip pointer with a fastball. And my leg went numb. Like my leg went numb, and I ran down to first base. And Mikey Flash, our boy, was at first base, and he's kind of just standing there. And I'm like, yo, Mikey, I can't run. I can't do this. And Bob's looking at me, and he's like, yo, like, are you good? And I'm like, no.
I'm sitting there like,
He's kind of just sitting there, and he comes. I look at Connor. I'm like, yo, like I'm done. So I hobble off the field, and just the relationship that we had with obviously Connor and Bobby and all that. They're coming over and they're like, yo, like you're a bitch. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Coach Bob, like I can't feel my fucking leg right now.
You got hit by 85.
Like my leg
in the belt buckle.
Like my leg is numb. And it was until the 6th inning that I couldn't feel my leg.
Dude, and I was just sitting there, I was like, great.
We almost brawled that game too.
Now the guy that was hurt before you may need to actually play this game. So we were a little wounded at that point.
Yeah, but we ended up winning that game. We ended up almost brawling. Because one of our guys, and I'm assuming you probably know who, said that the pitcher's shirt was a little bit too tight or his pants were a little bit too tight. And
yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to back up the boys there because my leg was numb.
I feel like every time we go to Keene now, we're getting off the beaten path
Yeah,
here.
we are getting off the beaten path.
We
That
will.
is going to be an episode.
We will give you a
We
lesson
are
in this
talking
episode
about it.
because there's a lot of electric stuff
Yeah,
there.
we asked ChatGPT what we gotta do to improve our podcast, and they said we gotta tease future episodes, and I think we're doing a great job of it.
We're doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, but what we will do is we will have a specific episode towards recovery and nutrition and all that stuff, just because we don't want this video to be too long. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please follow us on our social media. Like we said in the beginning of the video, which feels like forever ago, we had over 20,000 interactions with our profile. So we would really, really, really appreciate, you showing the love, following us, subscribing, do whatever you got to do. Stay tuned for sports talk this week.
We got a lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff.
The next month and a half is going to be crazy. I mean, shout out Brian the Barber. I told him I'd give him a shout out, so I couldn't forget.
Brian the Barber
hooked us up a little bit.
Hooked us up with the cuts.
Might as well
I
shout
feel
out.
I feel like it's weekly now that we go get cuts from Brian the Barber.
Dude, we have to go weekly.
We have to go weekly.
You haven't gotten there yet, but all my grays come out.
Yeah. I tell you
So
what.
I have to cut it.
One more story, and I know we're off the beaten path. So I come from northeastern Pennsylvania. I'm used to like my dad cutting my hair or going to like a barber shop that literally just cut your hair.
See you later.
And all that stuff. And I wasn't a big facial hair guy until I got to college, right? So I show up to Norwalk, Connecticut. Connor's like, yo, like, do you need a cut? I'm like, yeah, like, I need a cut. He's like, all right, cool. You can come see my boy Brian. So we go up to Brian, and he's cutting my hair, and he looks at me, and he's like, yo, like, do you want me to line you up? And I'm like, what? And he starts lining up my beard. And and this is not a bad thing, Brian. So when you watch this video, it's not a bad thing. It took him like 25 minutes to line up my beard. He's laughing his ass off in the back because he knows what's going through my mind. I'm like, yo,
it was great. It was great.
An electric razor or like a straight razor and just shaving my shit. And he's lining me up, but he made me look good. We continue to go back to him, so he does a great job.
Follow him. Give him a follow, Brian the Barber.
Yeah, but
he's
I think
a good dude.
That's called Prime Barbershop.
Prime Barbershops, Norwalk, Connecticut.
Yeah, in Norwalk, Connecticut. So if you guys need a cut, hit up our boy Brian. They have a bunch of chairs there. Everybody in there is super friendly. You'll learn a little bit of Spanish while you're in there too.
Get okay.
But yeah, no. Stay tuned for our future episodes. Episode 6 will be, the ins and outs of the recruiting process from former players and current college coaches. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for our sports talk video coming up next week too. In our past episode, we talked about, college football, college baseball. So it's going to be very similar to that. We also got a couple special guests lined up for, some future episodes too. So stay tuned for that. The Ferda Pod is growing, and we want you to grow with us. So we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Stay tuned.
And hey, don't forget, just go get big. Pop some pre-workout in.
Speaking of pre-workout stuff, I mean, this isn't pre-workout. This is
Rise Energy with protein.
Prebiotics. Rain. Rise. That's not going to help our fucking sponsorship.
Nope.
Oh, till next time, fellas.
Hey, till
and
next
ladies.
time. We're cutting it here. We're done. See ya.